Hello, everybody. Welcome to what are we on? Week 7. The semester is just flying by. Hello from my parents' house. That's what we're doing. We are recording videos for teaching college from our parents' house. It's a real professional hour around here. I don't think you guys care. I've got all of your project ones. I was a little flexible on the deadline, so a couple of you turned them in a little bit late. That's okay for project one. But remember, that does not cut it for questions of the day or rough drafts. Those, when they're due, they're due. If they're not turned in, they're not turned in. That's it. Okay, so let me share screen. Okay, so you see here we're on week 7, question of the day. But let's go over to content. Let's go to project 2. And if you remember, our rough draft is due in 2 weeks' time, and today is due your instruction set selection. So today is when I want you to have figured out what it is that you're going to be giving instructions for, whether that's how to change a tire or whatever it is. Please don't everyone do how to change a tire. It will be very boring for me as a grader. Once again, this is worth 25% of your final grade. For the final draft, the rough draft is worth, I don't know, 30 points or whatever, 3% of your grade. So not too much stress about that, but I do think it really helps to work through the process. Those people who turned in rough drafts for project 1, your project 1 final drafts look a lot better than those people who did not turn in rough drafts. So there is, my comments are helpful. I really encourage you guys all to do rough drafts. Okay. Let's go back to project 2. And I promised we would look at the samples a little more closely, so we're going to do that today. Okay. So here we have, this one is how to manage type 1 diabetes. As you see here, this is an introduction. In today's world, we have seen an increase of prevalence in many diseases and disorders, etc. Right? All of you in your instruction sets, right below the title and any title images you might have, I want you to have some sort of an introduction that introduces the reader to why it's important, right? That is like establishes your ethos. If you learned that in high school, ethos is a rhetorical term that means credibility. You have to show that you know what you're talking about by understanding some of the background information. You can't just say, here's how to change a tire. You have to say, tires have been being changed for a long time. I don't know, guys, make it up. But do you get the point? You've got to have some sort of an introduction. Excuse me. So I want to make sure all of you have that to begin. Then there's this warning. This is something that is in the assignment description. So I want us all to remember, if there is anything dangerous about the task we're doing, or concerning, or in any way troubling, have a warning or a caution, kind of like you would see on the, I don't know, the instructions for how to assemble a lawnmower or something, right? Warning metal blades. Whatever you're doing, if it needs warning or caution, make sure you have that. So something that this project did is it then had a list of important items. So this could be, for instance, if you're doing a recipe, now you may later on have the actual ingredients that are needed, but here to start, you just have important items that you need to have in order to make the process work. So for baking, it might be a cookie sheet, right? That's not going to go on the ingredients list, but it is an important item that you need. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. Then this one took a narrative approach, meaning it told a story of how to manage type 1 diabetes, which is to say in every section, it had multiple sections, and in every section, you notice it gave an extra little introduction. If you are choosing something that is sectioned out, that isn't just one step-by-step, you should have these separate introductions as well. But you don't have to do that. It's not required. Okay. Again, we have steps 1, 2, 2A, 3, 4, etc. If you take images from the internet, make sure you cite them like this and like this. So you say figure whatever, a nutrition label, and then you show where you got the picture from. Does that make sense? Yes. I'm going to keep asking, does that make sense? Okay, what else do we have on this? We've got another caution for another caution notice. Let's go down to the end. At the very end, we have something called useful terms. Now, this is something that could be helpful in a lot of your instruction sets. So if you are doing instructions for something that is complicated or scientific or in any way full of jargon, it's going to be helpful at the end to have useful terms. One, for that ethos, that credibility, and two, maybe more importantly, just so your reader is able to understand really what's going on. Okay? All right, there's sample number one. Sample two, as it's loading slowly, easy does it. How to make green onion pancakes. So this one is a recipe. Once again, you'll notice it has a big title. You can make your title more than just boldface font. You can be fancy like this person. It will get you extra points if it looks good. But you'll notice once again, we have this invested introduction, right? You want to have this introduction that establishes your ethos, your credibility, and also gives people an idea of what they're getting into. So in this case, we have background on green onion pancakes. We also have this, which tells people what they're getting into right there at the end. We have safety information, which is like a warning. You can set this up either way you want to. And then we have, once again, materials. So you need this material section for just about every single one of your instruction sets. And it's different than ingredients. It's different than the steps. It's the materials you need to make sure it happens. Okay, as you notice, this one is prettier. This got like an A++. This is a very good project. You've got ingredients here in a different color font. The images are inlaid thusly. If this were an in-person class, I'd be able to help you guys do this, but there is a lot of YouTube videos about how to inlay images in Microsoft Word. And then you have each step against the picture that is associated with that step, right? Does everyone see this, how this is working? It's pretty clever, really well done. When you get to the very end, all these steps, they add serving suggestions and troubleshooting. Now, serving suggestions, obviously unnecessary if you're changing a car tire, but troubleshooting is something I encourage you guys to include in your projects. It is, frankly, useful for an instruction set. What happens if something goes wrong? So be sure to include that if you want to get a good grade. Finally, we have sample 3. How to draw SpongeBob. This one's a little silly, but you see it does have an introduction about sketching. And then each step has both an image and a narrative. So once again, if yours is something that has like more complicated steps, do sentences like this instead of bullet points, right? So changing a tire is pretty easy. You just say what to do. But some of you might choose to do instructions on something a little more complicated, a little more nuanced, in which case you're going to want to make these narrative paragraphs for each step. Okay. That just about does it for instruction this week. I want you guys to all look through these samples and make sure that rough draft is in July 21st. Okay, what should our question of the day be today? I didn't pre-plan this one, so now I've got to think on the spot. We are doing sample papers and instructions. What if, let's do neither of those things. Let's do something about parents because I'm here with my parents at my parents' house. So the question of the day is going to be unrelated to the curriculum, but maybe it'll be fun for you guys. Pretty simple question. What's something you would tell your parents that you would never tell your friends? And what is something you would tell your friends, but you would never tell your parents? And for both of those, why? So that is the question of the day for memo format. What is something you would tell your parents that you would never tell your friends? And what is something you would tell your friends that you would never tell your parents? And then, because you've got to hit 250 words in that memo, explain why that is. All right, that's all we have for this week. I'm gonna post this video, should be up Sunday afternoon. And I'll talk to you guys next week from somewhere in Canada, because I'm going on a road trip, but I will have internet enough to record these videos and grade your questions of the day. So talk to you guys then.